At first glance, trade looks simple. I make something, you make something, we swap, and both of us are better off. Countries do this at scale. Exports go out, imports come in, standards of living rise, and economies grow. But trade isn't just about goods, it's about power. When one side starts to gain leverage, more control, more advantage, that's when friction starts. And sometimes, that friction becomes a trade war. So, why do trade wars happen? Here are 10 big reasons, in plain English. 1. Countries want to protect local industries. If cheaper imports flood the market, local businesses can't compete, so governments slap on tariffs or quotas to keep them alive, even if it means higher prices for me and you. 2. Trade imbalances create tension. If a country buys way more than it sells, money and jobs flow out. Pressure builds to bring production back home and cut dependency. 3. Control over critical industries. Tech, energy, chips, steel. These aren't just products, they're strategic. Countries guard them to avoid being vulnerable in a crisis. 4. Economic power becomes political power. If you dominate global trade, you influence global decisions. Others push back to avoid being sidelined. 5. Currency strategies create unfair advantages. Keep your currency weak, and your exports look cheap to the world. Competitors cry foul. Retaliation follows. 6. Intellectual property conflicts. Tech patents and know-how are hard to create and easy to copy. When ideas cross borders, fights about theft, licensing, and access erupt. 7. National security concerns. Depending on a rival for chips, energy, or defense parts feels risky. Barriers go up in the name of security. 8. Political pressure at home. Workers' unions and industries lobby hard. If jobs are at stake, leaders act fast. 9. Retaliation escalates. One tariff invites another. Then, another. Costs pile up, supply chains wobble, and both sides dig in. 10. Long-term strategic competition. Trade wars aren't always about today's prices. They're about tomorrow's dominance. Influence standards, future tech platforms. Let me make this concrete. Imagine two giant economies tied together. One becomes a manufacturing powerhouse, exporting at scale. The other imports more and watches factories close. To protect what's left, the importing country raises tariffs. Overnight, those once cheap imports get expensive. Trade slows. The exporting country hits back with its own tariffs. Now both sides face higher costs, jittery markets, and slower growth. What started as efficient exchange turns into a contest for leverage. This is the tension between prosperity and power. Open trade can lift incomes and expand choices. But power, who sets the rules, who controls choke points, who owns critical tech, can override pure economics. And when power is on the line, leaders accept short-term pain for long-term position. So, do trade wars work? Sometimes they protect a local industry or force a negotiation. But they also raise prices, distort incentives, and make supply chains fragile. The truth is, messy trade can grow the pie, while politics decides how the slices and the rules are set. If you want to understand money, power, and how the system really works, hit subscribe. I'll keep breaking this down without the jargon so you can see the playbook behind the headlines.